Hey friends, it's Richie Ó'hAllmhuráin, and on my mind today, this glorious March evening, the mainstream media. So I'm in groups on Facebook, and from that perspective, the awakening is happening. These guys that I talk about, we call them the reptoids. They're in all the big jobs, the media, sport, any field, these so-called journalists. We hear reports from Spain and Italy about that the army themselves are struggling to cope with the stream of dead bodies. It's easy for a guy to me to seem unsympathetic. If you meet one of the reptoids, they'd go very deeply into sorrow about the whole situation. But anyway, regardless of that, the numbers, they just don't add up, as regards this killer virus. Yeah, my last video, it got 160 hits, and it's just a few days ago now that the death toll from Italy from this deadly virus was basically the same as any other day, according to 2014 CSO figures. So yeah, I would be taking figures from Ireland, but that kind of mortality rate, the percentage will be more or less the same. Anyway, so that's basically what my last video was about. What have I got going on today? Well, just that, these 1 in 20, these guys, they look like us, they act very much like us, but they have all the big jobs and they all go around with college degrees. That college system suits them very well. Mankind, we're not like number crunchers. Anyway, they are. So, right, I turn on the camera, I have nothing going on, I start talking, this is what's on my mind. Yeah, so these college boys, don't trust them. So what else is going on? You've got your virus, right? We've heard it before, of course. There was swine flu, 2010, I believe. I remember that. They'd like to introduce a mandatory vaccine. Those vaccines are like a death sentence for mankind. They'd like to introduce a one world currency, microchipped population. You've got your surveillance cameras. I know a small bit about communism. I haven't encountered anything about surveillance cameras being part of the it's not really a religion or a cult, it's a philosophy. If you read Capital, and I've only scratched the surface of it, I have a copy of it, but yeah, communism isn't about the totalitarian society that the Chinese are running. So that's one thing that I wanted to talk about. But yeah, what else is going on? Well, the Dracos, I call them the reptoids. That's the most important thing that's happening on planet Earth at the moment. Things would be a lot better if we were free, and they know what freedom is. So yeah, they are the reptoids. As I say, they look like us. They may not sleep on Earth. They run from Saturn. You can read about this if you do a Google search for guy called John Lash, he talks about the Gnostics. Now this was like 2,000 years ago. They knew all about these Draco fellas. I could talk about another book, The Secret History of Rock and Roll. The Gnostics, they became the rock and roll guys. It's a very ancient scene. What else is going on? I don't know. My arm is getting sore. That's one thing that's going on. Let's switch. Yeah, I bought a tripod. I didn't remember to bring it with me tonight. You know, I might wrap up. It's a shame because there is a lot of stuff. There's of course David Wilcock, and he talks about teleportation. Yeah, that's Mars, of course, our nearest planet. But yeah, the Draco, the reptoids, they run from Saturn. That's my understanding, via the moon. It all sounds very weird, but the mainstream media, they've been conditioning us for so long now that any talk of space travel, it sounds like fiction. It's not. Yeah, I could talk about Ashtar Command. So they're the good guys. They're with a broader group known as the Galactic Federation of Light. Mankind, we're not in the Federation. There's a nearer group, the Confederation. We're not in that either. Soon, you know, I speak of the global awakening, and yeah, I read this book, The Law of One, great book. You can Google that, it's all up there. And so the transition from third density to fourth density on planet Earth is happening in this age. The book was written in about 1982, and yeah, they speak of 30 years, which is around now, 2020. It's nearly 40 now, to be honest, but they speak of around this time the awakening will happen, and it's about getting into fourth density. At that point, mankind will be able to join the Confederation. That's if the Dracos don't expand their control systems. So there is a consciousness war happening. Us versus the reptoids. We're winning the war. They tell me that in fact they're the hunted ones. So yeah, it's like that old Rolling Stones number, Sympathy for the Devil. They're involved in everything, to be fair. And you know, if mankind wants to start a revolution, they're in it, these Draco men. You know, so we have a lot to be grateful for as mankind, but we want freedom. Chuckig, our law. Richie Ó'hAllmhuráin.